What's going on, guys? My name is Sam.
I'm Sadie.
And in today's video, we are going to answer y'all's questions about Christian dating and relationships.
Hi. Now that you're married, I'm interested in what your life plans are. I'm thinking things like working, having your own business, kids, a house. I'd also be interested in what thought processes you go through in this regard to learn from you. By the way, I already learned a ton from you guys and your testimonies. Thank you so much for your ministry. It means a lot to me. God bless.
So basically, it sounds like this person's question is kind of like, what are you doing with your life now that you're married? Like, what are you doing as far as finance, as far as family-related stuff, like basically everything. So recently, I started my own business. I'm doing junk removal and junk hauling. Things are going really well. I felt led to go away from my previous job for moral reasons and different things like that. I felt like the Lord was leading me away. What do you feel like we're kind of going through right now, honey?
Currently, we're working towards hopefully having a home at some point. Not sure how soon, but that's definitely something we're working towards. We definitely want kids at some point. That's all in the Lord's timing. We're working through some stuff with my health right now, and so ultimately all of that is in God's hands.
I like this one because they said, howdy, what are your thoughts on the right person, wrong time concept? For instance, meeting someone you think is right for you, but y'all are both too young/immature. How should that be dealt with? Oh, okay, I have the floor here. So I do think that God will put you in front of somebody that it will eventually be the right time for you to be with them. Maybe it's just not right now. I mean, think of Jacob and Rachel and how obviously it was in God's plan for them to be married at some point, but Jacob had to work for quite some time before that was a thing.
We've made a video about it. I stumbled across Sam's YouTube video, like his YouTube channel, when he was in a relationship the year before we met.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I definitely, now I'm thinking back to it, there's definitely a right person, wrong time, because at the time God protected me from like even clicking on his channel because I saw a title of like something relationship Q&A like this. So I definitely think there's a right person, wrong time. How did you each manage loneliness in your singleness? Yeah, that was a longer question. I just kind of like summarized it. I was really involved with my friends during singleness and just growing in my relationship with the Lord, spending a lot of time with family. I wouldn't say I was just like, when will my prince come? But like part of me was like that for sure. But I don't think that I dwelt in the like super like lonely aspect of it. I was definitely in the like, am I going to be single forever era, but yeah, that's for me.
Well, when I met her, she had kind of like accepted. She was like, well, I'm going to be single and I'm going to work for the FBI. That was basically like the season of life that she was in.
I was in my single girl era.
In her single girl era. That's a tongue twister right there. So for me, I was probably a little bit different. I felt like for a lot of my college and up years, I really struggled a lot with feeling lonely and like I really wanted to be married, but God would not put the right person in front of me. And so I felt like finally by the time that I just gave up and surrendered, then God basically just let Sadie fall right into my lap, with her following me on Instagram and then me following her back and everything.
Is it possible for a man not to ever lust after other women? I've been with maybe Christian men who say they don't lust, but they're clearly checking out other women when we go places. That's a red flag. I want my husband to only have eyes for me. I'm not saying he won't realize another woman's beautiful, but I just don't want him to lust. Is this an unrealistic expectation? No, that's not an unrealistic expectation.
Well, you answered for me, but I agree with you.
Well, I gotta preach to my sister.
Yeah. Well, okay, here is my perspective on it. So guys are always going to be able to understand and see that another person is an attractive person. There's nothing wrong with noticing that. Just like I can notice that the walls are white, the curtains are white, the tree is green. Like, you can absolutely notice something like that, but it's another thing to like sit there and think about like, man, those walls are so white.
Yeah.
Like, I love those walls so much.
Yeah.
It's another thing to actually focus on that thought. In the same way, when Jesus was out in the desert and Satan was tempting him, Satan was throwing all these different things in, Jesus's face, saying, hey, look what you could have, look what you could have. Jesus did not sin by, seeing the different things that Satan presented to him. He would have only sinned if he had said, okay, I'm going to, fantasize about having this or actually take advantage of it. So yes, absolutely. If you are a Christian, if you have the Holy Spirit in you, God can give you victory over having lustful thoughts over women that are not belonging to you, that are not married, that you're not married to. When in a relationship and it seems like God is leading you towards breaking up, how do you do that with wisdom? I know it will involve maybe one party being hurt or both, but it's hard. It's so hard when you care for them, but God is calling you to move on.
I don't know how to answer that question.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, I go back to the Holy Spirit and just kind of his convicting and his prompting. So, for me, if I feel like the Lord has something different for me, or like a path that I'm walking down is not right, I feel like I spend enough time typically in the Bible, and this is the most important thing, spend enough time in the Bible, in His Word, in prayer, to where you feel like you can kind of discern what's His voice and what's the world's voice. So if you're consuming nothing but TV that's garbage, that's trashy, movies, video games, different things that are really, really bad for your soul, you can kind of start to drown out the voice of the Holy Spirit in you. If you are really in tune with Him, if you are really seeking after Him, you'll have a lot more clarity and a lot more wisdom when it comes to situations like this. At least that's what I've found. So if you are really seeking after the Lord, trying to figure out what His will is for this situation, you're going to be able to have that discernment. But if you're plugged into the world and everything, you're not going to be able to discern what His will is as easily.
Here's a good one.
Okay.
Is it hard to love the other at times?
Yes. I can say that with confidence.
Yeah. I would say this week was probably a loving each other through it time, probably.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's been a difficult week because, full disclosure, our lease is about to run out in our apartment, and so there's family in 2 different states that are a certain distance away, and so there are a lot of decisions on, do we stay here, do we go somewhere else? Are the opportunities and relationships that could be made here as good as the ones that could be made elsewhere? What can we afford? That's always a big one. So there's been a lot of stress lately, and I think that me and Sadie have been arguing because there is stress and big decisions.
For sure. So yes, it's definitely hard to love each other at times, but at the end of the day, you're still with that person. And I didn't tell you this, but when I was doing my quiet time before you got here, I legit started almost crying, tear, because I was just thinking about how even through our hard times the last few days, you've still loved me unconditionally like the Lord does. And so I just started crying while I was having a quiet time.
That's sweet, honey.
I hadn't told Sam that yet, but yeah.
I'm glad she did now.
So yeah, it is hard to love each other at times, but I believe relationships go through different seasons, but you're still supposed to stay with the other person at the end of the day. How do I deal with feeling like the relationship I'm in, I rushed into, been praying about, what are you getting on that? You have personal experience there? Or?
Maybe.
But I'd like to hear your thoughts. I feel like I never got to appreciate my singleness and be content in it, and I feel unready for it too.
Oh, goodness. Well, the thing is, when you feel like you've rushed into a relationship, it's never easy to end a relationship. So the longer you let it go on, the more difficult it's going to be. If you are genuinely meant to be with that person, if that's what God has for you, I genuinely believe that the person that you're with will understand if you say, hey, I feel like I've really rushed things. I want to really, get to know you. I want to, stay in touch with you, but I just want to slow down. I think that the person will understand that and they'll keep on pursuing you.
That's a good idea. That's a good point. And then how does she deal with feeling like I should not be in this relationship, feeling anxious and depressed that I'm in it, wanting to get out, not because the person's bad or treating me weird, but there's just this unrest. We've only been dating for a short while as well, and we already made it public. What do you think I should do?
Ugh.
Okay, so definitely it seems like you don't want to be in the relationship, first of all. And I think social media makes this like way more of a complicated process, kind of, because you're nervous of what people are going to think if you take their pictures down, and like, you know what I mean? Like, there's that pressure.
Social media is just killing me.
I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying that's a thing now.
Oh,
like,
I
people will
understand.
stalk people's Instagram pages and be like, she deleted photos of like Chad. But
It's always Chad.
in realness, it definitely sounds like that is not a relationship that you want to be in or need to be in, even if the person is a great person. I would say the sooner you end the relationship, the better for the both of you, because you don't want to be leading that other person on. That's not right for their heart. You just always want to be as nice about a breakup as you can, and take care of not only yourself but also put yourself in the other person's shoes of, how am I going to make them feel? How can I make this like as respectful as possible, you know?
Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because you want to make sure that you don't get too deep into something that you really aren't comfortable with. But then again, you also want to make sure that you give yourself enough time to stop freaking out, because some people are like that. You get into a relationship and you freak out. You're like, oh my goodness, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? I'm committed to this person for life, blah, 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 blah. And then you have to just give yourself time to adjust to it. That's how I've been for a lot of my life.
Okay, what's your point of view on the financial aspect of marriage? There's this concept of being high-value men and women playing both of their roles, and the man apparently is supposed to be the provider, and he takes care of all the financial aspect, while the woman nurtures the house and supports her husband. What's your opinion about it? Thank you.
So it's very difficult in today's day and age when women are basically encouraged to pursue being a girl boss, being the main provider. And you know, right now Sadie does work and everything, and I would like to get to a point where I am the primary provider, because I want, when we have kids, for her to be able to stay at home with the kids, homeschool them, you know, be able to take care of them, and then I'm the sole provider. Now, you know, do I think it's wrong for a stopgap for her to be, you know, working for a little while? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I mean, I think that traditional roles with making money, with decision making, stuff like that, as controversial as it might be to the mainstream, that men are supposed to be the leaders and the head of the household.
Yeah, which I have always wanted to be a wife and mom, homemaker. Like, that has been, I know that's been like my calling since day one. But I have found a job that I love, so I know when I do leave that, that's going to be really hard. So there's going to be, I think, part of me that's like battling flesh in a sense of, well, I want to make money, like I'm making money. But you just have to shift your priorities to the right thing of, nobody else can replace you as a mom. Nobody else can replace you as a wife. Like, you need to be there for your family. And so no amount of money should ever make us question that.
Yeah, I agree. No worldly logic will ever stand up to what God says.
Okay, well, that's all for the questions that we will do in our Q&A today. A lot of them were relationship based. We'll do another one later on that's more personal towards us if y'all want to see that. If you do want to see that, let us know in the comments. If you've not yet subscribed, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. Isn't that what you say?
Yeah.
And yeah, so we love you all, and we'll see you next week.
Throw a like, because she just did the outro and she's never done that before, and I'm incredibly proud of her.
Yay for Sadie today.
We love every single one of you. Big shout out to our patrons, and we will see you guys in the next video.
See ya.
Bye.